Welcome back to another issue of BSU.
Hello, hello, welcome back.
Hey y'all. It is so good to be back with you this week. And this week we're gonna just jump right in. We are talking about hair. We are talking about black hair this week. So, Tori, Denitra, when I say black hair, what is the first thing that comes to your mind?
The first thing that came to my mind, actually, it's funny you should mention it, Kira. I literally just read an article in the paper about the discrimination that many African Americans receive for having natural black hair. That hasn't been my story. Actually, I get a lot of positive feedback when I wear my natural hair. The only silly thing I get is, "Oh, you cut your hair?" And then I have to have this extensive conversation about shrinkage. And when you pull that strand, because it's natural now, when you pull that strand all the way down, they're like, the longer the strand goes, the longer that chin goes. Other than that, while the article did highlight that, and I have heard many African Americans talk about how they felt bullied into changing their hairstyle and things of that nature. But we all know I rock my Badu wraps. I rock my natural hair. I mean, I straighten my hair probably once or twice a year, but I do braid it, twist it, all kinds of stuff because I have a black daughter and I have to model for my daughter that black beauty comes in many other formats other than European beauty. We don't have to straighten our hair to look good. So that's what comes to my mind.
Oh, what comes to my mind, I would say different in a good way, meaning our hair is just different, different kinds of hair in the black community, and we also wear our hair in different styles, from braids to locks to even straightening it to wearing it curly to a low cut, an afro, so many different ways to wear our hair. So whenever I think of black hair, or even when you just said it, I was like, it's different. We're different. Our hair is different, but not different to mean anything bad, but different to mean we got a good different. There we go.
I gotta say real quick, I gotta throw this in there. I love that Tori said locks and not dreadlocks. I've been working on dropping dread from my language when I talk about locks, because once you know better, you're supposed to do better. And I don't know if either of you heard about the origination of dreadlocks, where it comes from, and how slave catchers and slave owners thought that, that the hair was dreadful, so they called it dreadlocks. Yeah, and I was like, oh, really? Oh, I won't be using that term anymore. So I love that you said that. Just as a quick side note. Sorry, Kira. I feel like you was going to say something. My bad.
No. I was just thinking about, Tori, you had mentioned earlier about an article that came out in Green Bay that was similar to the article that came out in the Post Crescent. Will you tell me about that?
I didn't read the one in the Post Crescent. I read a little bit of the one from Green Bay, and it was talking about different hairstyles and how different African Americans in the area have been discriminated against because of their, not even the natural hair, the braids, the wearing extensions, weaves, whatever the case may be, that they have experienced some discrimination to it. And it was just them sharing their own stories, saying, not saying where they work at, but just the vibes, the response they got to wearing their hair how they wanted to just be expressive with their hair. So
I don't know why I'm feeling so silly and interruptive today.
It's
Well,
okay.
all I could think Tori was talking about hair hat. They getting penalized from wearing these hair hats. So there's this term that I use. I actually stole it from my husband. Talking about when we wear wigs and stuff, or just anybody, when you wear a wig and stuff. And so as Tori was talking about having discrimination, not just from locks and natural hair, but just weaves and all that. And I was like, really? They being discriminated for a hair hat? That was my first thought. Well, I'm sorry, Kira.
That's okay. I think silliness is good, especially in this
good for the soul.
Pandemic time. Yeah. But it's really interesting that right, what comes up is like kind of this knowledge of discrimination, that even if it hasn't happened to us personally, like we're aware that like we are persecuted in this particular way about this particular thing, so much so that in California they passed it's called the Crown Act, I think. That is like an anti-discrimination piece of legislation that prevents this, or is supposed to prevent this. And I think that something that I hear sometimes is, well, it's just hair. Why does it have to be this big deal? We all have hair. It's just hair. But what's true in the Black community is that hair is so deeply a part of our identity. It's so deeply a way to connect with heritage, and where we go to get our hair done is also where we gather and nurture ourselves and each other as a community, you know. So it's so important, and it represents so much.
Yeah, that's I'm glad you mentioned that, you know, places to gather, almost like safe spaces. And I remember growing up, I have an older brother, and my dad would take him to get his hair cut pretty much every other Saturday. Both of them would go together, and they would leave early in the morning, like maybe 7 or even 8 o'clock, and they would literally be gone till about 3, 4, or 5 p.m. in the afternoon. Almost like they were going to work, but they were going to the barbershop. They were waiting on their barber to get their haircuts. So they're seeing usually the same guys that are there, the same kids that are there, the same barbers that are there getting their haircut, but having those conversations that they normally wouldn't have around others. And by others, I mean like maybe some of their family members, because it was a barbershop that was full of Black men, and they will have those conversations with each other, whether it was on sports, what's going on in the community, what's going on in the media, what happened at work that affected them as Black men. And my brother and my dad went to the same barber. My dad still goes to that same barber to this day. And just the relationships that they've made with the other barbers there and the other men there, they talk highly about it, and how important it is, how important barbershops in general are a staple in the Black community. So it was their safe space. It is their safe space. So just hearing that makes me happy. And I would be a little sad when my brother would go get his haircut because he was gone for the entire day. But I knew, okay, he's going to be with the boys. I was like, oh, they're going with the boys, you know, or going to their area. And that's not to like segregate themselves from anyone else, but it was a spot for Black men to be themselves, to listen to what they want to listen to, and to talk about the things that matter to them most without being judged.
Mm-hmm. It's funny that both of you are referencing a place to get our hair done as a safe space. I never thought about it that way, and I know some years back, it was like the first year that I was volunteering with Black kids at the elementary level, and they wanted to have a community conversation with Black parents and get their feedback on how things were going for them in the Fox cities. And they called it a Black town hall meeting, and they actually held it at a barbershop. I don't think King's is still there. I know, right? I don't think King's is still there. It was across the street from the club. I think they moved and changed the name under new ownership, but it was held at King's actually, and Black parents were invited, and school administrators came out, teachers came out. It was interesting, and that was kind of, while we didn't use the verbiage safe space at the time, mm-hmm. that was the feeling behind it. You know, where could we congregate as Black families to talk about Black issues? So
mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think especially in a place like Appleton and like the Fox cities, and even just Northeast Wisconsin in general, those spaces, they're there now, but even just in the last decade, they have been few and far between. I remember when I was at Lawrence, the Black women who I knew didn't have somewhere to go, so they would, several people I knew they just taught themselves to do hair, and then would do it for others. And then also we would either do it ourselves, or there were a few mentors who would organize trips to Milwaukee and take like 6, 7, 8 college students just to go get hair done, because there just wasn't a place to do it here in Appleton.
Mm-hmm. And I would say that's a form of privilege, because we talked about this in college too. A group of my friends who at the time, a few of them were from Chicago, so that's quite a ways away, about a 4-hour drive from this area. And they, would walk around campus with hats on, their do-rags or whatever, because their hair wasn't up to their standard or how they wanted it to be cut. And because we are in a predominantly white area and we don't have that privilege to go to the nearest barbershop or hair salon to get our kind of hair done, that they will wait months on top of months just to go down to a black barber who knew how to cut their hair, even in terms of like going to the store and finding products that we typically use, because like I mentioned earlier, our hair is different in a good way. But I remember going to Walmart because there was no like beauty supply stores like a few of us will know, coming from larger cities. So going to Walmart and actually finding the ethnic hair section is what it's called, and it being so small, and I'm like, okay, there's not much to choose from, because again, our hair is different, it requires different, keeps up, we have to keep it up differently. And so waiting months, just to go down to Milwaukee, or having care packages being sent up, just to get the proper stuff that we needed for our hair, a headscarf, an actual comb that, that's, how can I say, that is geared towards our, hair. So it's a lots of form of privilege, I would say.
Man, you said so many truths in that. I feel like many of us, well, I'll just speak in I statements. I know that's when I learned to do my own hair. I grew up with my sister doing my hair, and then when I went to high school, my mom started taking me to the shop. And then that kind of rolled over and spilled over into my adult life when I got on my own and went off to college. But like what Tori said, and Kira also said it, when we get to college, you go away to college and you don't know your resources where you are. You don't know who do hair. And sometimes we don't be having shops. Sometimes we be going up in the kitchen to get our hair done. So, sometimes we just don't know where to go. And I know I had to learn to do my own hair after going to the shop and coming out of the seat. Didn't know it was going to rain. Standing at the bus stop because I'm just in college with no ride of my own. And it started raining. And by the time I got home, my hair had... And I was like, oh no. And then once I did it myself and was like, oh, this is not too bad. I can do this myself moving forward. But it's one of those, it's like that. When I first moved here 11 years ago, I had to do the same thing. A friend of mine who was black and had custodial care of his sister, who obviously is black. And he told me, dude, I'm just going to let you know, finding somebody to do your hair is just going to be impossible, when you get here. So leading up to coming here from California, I started asking my beautician, how you get my hair straight? How you do this? What can I do for this? What can I do for that? Because I just really didn't know. And now I do my own hair, but I definitely, my heart goes out to those who relocate and just don't know. I've run into many people at restaurants, like, oh my God, you live here? Where can I go and find, and they want to know where to go to find black products, like Tori said, or somebody that can do their hair, because you just can't be putting white hands in the hair. I'm just saying, it's not the same. No, that's not true. Nowadays, other people have learned how to do our hair, but yeah.
I haven't met one. That's all I'll say. I have not met a non-black person who has done my hair really, really well. And I think it is, and even if other people do know how to do it, there's something really special, right? There's a safety and a trust that can happen. Anyway, Tori, what were you going to say?
Yeah, I was going to say, to build off Denitra, and a little bit about what you just said, Kira, is, I don't know about you all, but I take my hair seriously. So if I'm going to go get it done, I want to trust that you know how to do it. I don't care who you are. I need to see your work, and I need to trust that you know how to do my hair, my kind of hair, or those who look like me hair, so that adds to it. And even the conversation I've had with students over the years just about hair and just like loving your hair no matter, stop trying to compare your hair texture to someone else's. Be proud of the hair that you have. We can rock it in so many forms, like I said before, braids, afros, in a natural state. There's so many ways that we can actually do our hair. So just, making that aware to students, the youth, those of you that's watching, love the hair that you have, love the skin you're in. It's beautiful. Just, finding different ways on how to wear it and what fits you the best.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I echo that. And before we go, I just want to say what Tori said. Y'all thought y'all was getting out of me asking you to do something this week, huh? Oh, no. Right. Oh, no. We want you to write in and let us know. What's your preference? Do you rock a hair hat? No judgment if you do. Do you like to do something Tori didn't mention? What's that stuff with the crochet?
Crochet braids?
Mm-hmm. Is that what it's called? Crochet? Hey, do you do the crochet? Do you interlocks? That's the word I was looking for. Do you do interlocks? Do you are you rocking a natural lock? Are you a weave person? If you a dude, we want to hear from you young men as well. What do you like to see? What are you also rocking? Because it's not to say all boys have to just shave their hair off. We want to hear from you. Let us know, what are your thoughts? What kind of struggles have you been facing? And where do you get your hair products? Talk to us. Let us know. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
And I do want to add two things. Let us know, like you said initially, like your hair products or your hair routines. I love learning what others do with their hair. For some reason, it is so satisfying to me. And especially the people who have like the shorter haircut and they get the waves in them. I love hearing the techniques. It's so, not before growing up, it was just people would just brush their hair, throw the do-rag on, and then they have waves. Now it's a whole routine, putting the shampoo on, brushing it with this, and I'm just so like amazed by it. I think it's awesome. So let us know your hair routine. And there are some Black-owned barbershops and beauty salons in the Fox Valley area. And for those of you who live in Green Bay, there's some this way as well. So if you want the names to that, just write us, let us know, and we'll provide you with some resources with that as well.
Mm-hmm. Kira, you have any final parting words for us, or any actionable items for the youth?
No actionable items, except for to please write in, tell us all of your thoughts. Tell us also what other topics you would like to hear about from us. And I just really love talking about this. Is one of my favorite things to talk about. So I'm really glad that we covered this today.
Yeah. Yes. And on that note, thank you all again for joining us today. We love it when you chime in. We will love it more if you send us some emails. So but tune in for next week. We look forward to seeing you then, and we're so happy you joined us today.
Yep.
Have a good one.
Bye.